Good morning and welcome to the webinar today. Today we are looking at setting up Plesk on one of our new VPS servers, the VPS version 2, and we're going to look at setting that up as a mail server, and we'll cover setting up like DKIM on there and DMARC and all of that sort of good stuff that you kind of need for modern mail servers as well. Today with me I've got Tom Coker-Jones, who is our customer engagement specialist, and my name is Will. I'm the customer experience manager here at Fasthost. And so today we're just going to go through that. And if you've got any questions in the meantime, we've got this. We've got the chat on YouTube. Any questions in the meantime whilst we're going through, go ahead and ask there. I'm keeping half an eye on that. And basically, any questions, we'll do that. We will do a Q&A session at the end. We're getting an extra participant there. And we'll do a Q&A session at the end. Like I say, any questions as we go, we can kind of do it, just because sometimes it's easier to answer them as we go. So, I'm keeping an eye on that if we need it to. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tom, who will be driving for the most part today. Yeah. Now we're a little bit nervous about this one because we're doing this like live. So we've tested it multiple times, but as it always seems to be the curse. When we do it live, something doesn't work. So hopefully, fingers crossed. We've got about 3 servers ready to go.
Yeah, just in case we've got some backups, but hopefully all should be fine.
Here's one I made earlier.
So we are. Hang on. Give me a sec. That's not the screen you should be seeing. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Give me a sec. There we go.
Good start.
There we go. Right, it's all working. It's all working. It's all good.
The curse.
Obviously, just before we begin, if there's any issues hearing us, if there's any issues seeing anything, please let us know in the chat. We'd rather get this issue sorted now before we start going into everything. We don't have to retread. So, any issues, let us know. So we're starting off on the Fasthost dashboard, and obviously today what we want to do is set up an email server. So what we're going to do is go into our virtual private server section on the control panel. And as you can see, I've got quite a few virtual servers in here already. When you buy a virtual server for the first time, you'll see a list like this. You might just have the one server rather than a whole bunch like me. But the way that you approach this is exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to click into the server that we want to set up the email server on.
Maybe worth noting at that point, the edition 1 and edition 2.
Yes. I'm going to have to go back now.
Go back. Sorry.
Hang on.
That's just my.
This probably is worth clarifying.
Yeah, just for basically for support guides and speaking to support as well. So it's useful to know.
So obviously we had this isn't the first edition of VPS we've actually had quite a few versions of VPS over the years.
There's been a few.
But this is VPS edition 2 is definitely the next iteration on the VPS platform that we had before. If you have a VPS already, if you had a VPS before we introduced VPS edition 2, then you'll see that it shows VPS edition 1. And you'll also see, if I click into this one as an example, the interface is going to look slightly different. You'll see that our original VPS interface like this, whereas if we were to go into a VPS edition 2, what you'd actually see is something that's very similar to the cloud panel that we use for another line of our servers. And it functions in mostly the same way.
And I think it's worth noting as well, once you're in Plesk, it doesn't really make much difference. No. Plesk is Plesk. It doesn't really care what version your server is. It just functions, so it's a software layer. So
basically, if you've got a VPS edition 1 and you wanted to set up an email server, you could absolutely follow pretty much all the same steps. I think the only thing that's different is you wouldn't have to install Plesk if you've opted for it when setting up. So that's the only difference there. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to actually log into this server via SSH. We're doing this on an Ubuntu server. So what we're going to do is log in. Now I'm running because I'm on a Mac.
So this is just installing Plesk now. Like for a brand new server, you've just bought the server, you've got to install Plesk as a first port of call.
I'm on a MacBook, but what I've done is I've logged into a remote machine just so that we can show you exactly how it would look if you're on a Windows machine, which chances are you probably are using. So
if you're on a Mac, it's terminal, I think, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But what we've done, or what I've done on this Windows machine, is I've installed the program Putty. It's really easy to install. All you have to do literally is Google Putty, so Putty, and you'll be able to find the application really easily. And this is what we're going to use to actually log into our server and actually take a look at it and actually start to make some changes.
This is probably the most, like, if you're not used to servers, this is probably the most servery part of the whole process, I would say.
For sure.
Just connecting to just using Linux in general.
And even then, we make it super easy. You can just copy and paste everything that you need. So
we've actually got a guide on it. I'm going to put this in the chat section real quick.
And you will actually see that I'm going to use that guide myself as well.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that I am definitely not the most technical person ever, and it was, even I did this super quickly. So yeah, I've just popped that in the chat there. That's a guide on how to do this on a Plesk server with running Linux. So it's very straightforward. You can literally just follow that without any knowledge of Linux and just follow the guide.
So what we're going to do, like I said, we need to log into this server. So we need the IP address of the server to log in. We go back to our control panel. You can see that the login data is right here. And that's the IP address that we need. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm going to paste that in on Putty. And I'm going to click open. So we've opened up a SSH session. So that's it. That's connected to the server. And now I need to log into the server. If you haven't changed it, and in fact, when you're installing Plesk, it's highly recommended that you do use root, which is the default user. And that's actually what's shown in the control panel when you are looking at your server login details as well. And you can also go into the control panel and get the password. I'm not going to get the password on stream. I've already copied it somewhere.
Mistakes have been made in the past.
Just because you never know. You never know. So I'm going to copy that.
Not that there's much you'd find on there at the moment, but you know.
In fact, what I might have to do is I might have to type it out because I realise I don't have a mouse. So right-clicking is a pain on
yes.
Mac. So that's fine.
Please hold the line.
Please hold. Hope that's an I. It
was
brilliant. So just logged into our server. I've already ran any updates that were needed, and you can do that quite simply by typing in the command apt update and then running that, and then when that's done, which will be done very quickly, you can then type in the command apt upgrade, and it will install all the updates for you. So if it's a new server, brand new server, I definitely recommend doing that. Make sure on the latest version of everything, just so that you know that when you're installing Plesk, there's not going to be any funny business going on. Any funny business. So
Pesky updates.
So we've got a fully updated version of Ubuntu ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on one of those guides I was talking about. The first one in our help area is installing Plesk on a Linux VPS. I think Will's already put this one. This is the one you put in the chat?
Yes.
Yep. So
this is the one in chat.
So you obviously take the time to read it. There's some important information here about making sure that TCP 8443 and 8447 are open in the firewall. I'm going to go into firewall stuff in a bit, but with a VPS edition 2, every single one that I've generated has had those on by default, so you shouldn't need to look at that. But if you're having initial issues with Plesk, that might be something you need to check. And you can see here it's giving you instructions on generating the Plesk license key. I've actually already done that on this server. As you can see here, I've got a Plesk license key here. But as I said, this guide takes you through the whole process. It shows you the link that you need to click to generate that key. Super easy. Once you've generated it, then you need to make a note of it, copy it somewhere or something like that. The bit that we want is installing Plesk using one click. And what we need to do, we need to log into the server via SSH as root, which we've just done. And we need to make sure that curl is installed. So I'm very confident that it is, but just for the sake of, if I can copy it, nice.
Should have had a mouse.
Should have had a mouse.
Should have had a mouse.
Should have had a mouse. Just for the sake of making sure this is all going to work first time, I'm going to copy that command, and I'm actually going to have to type out every single command.
Oh, mate. Let's see if there's a mouse. There might be a mouse over there. Let's go and grab it for you.
This because I'm going to have to also copy this command in.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to go and see if I can find Tom a mouse.
That's fine. I'll keep going. That was not. This was, of all the issues, this is not the one I expected, honestly. But yeah, basically what you would need to do here is copy out the curl command just to make sure that's installed. Like I said, I haven't had any issues where I've needed to do that on a VPS edition 2, so that should be fine. And then what you need to do is copy in this entire command here. So this sh, and then it's in brackets curl, and it's giving you the link that you need to install. Will's just literally running out of the room to find me a mouse, which is very funny. But yeah, the reality is that once we'd pasted this command in, there wouldn't really be much to show you anyway, because what you would have seen is Plesk actually installing, and it takes about 10 minutes or so. And it will let you know when it's done and everything, so you don't need to sit there and monitor it or anything like that. Obviously, if there's any errors or anything, you may need to look those up. But as I said, I've done this now 4 or 5 times on separate servers, and I've not had an issue where any of this has not worked for me. So it should be really, really straightforward, really seamless. And what will happen is like I said, you'll copy this link into the terminal, into your SSH terminal, and then you'll paste it, hit enter. It's going to run through the whole installation process. To be honest, I'm probably not even going to wait for Will, because all you'll be seeing is just text scrolling up the screen. It's not really anything interesting. And what would then happen is it'd tell you that Plesk's installed, and that would be you pretty much done on the SSH terminal. You don't really need to do much more on the SSH terminal just to get an initial email server going. What you'd end up with is you log out of that server and you come to this control panel. Oh, has Will got a mouse? He's got a mouse. All right. I was going to keep going as if we didn't need it. So
I don't think I've ever run so fast upstairs in my life.
Right, hang on. Bear with.
I'm just going to need a second to catch my breath.
This is a super high quality professional stream. Super prepared. No amateurs in the room today.
Amount of time we spent setting up lights, everything.
I know.
Okay, I'm gonna need a mouse.
So it even plugs in.
Do you need me to plug it in for you as well, Tom?
No, I got it. There we go. All right, we've got a mouse. We are living in the 21st century. We have a mouse. Right.
Oh, it works. Look at that.
So I was going to skip over it as if you didn't need to know, but I'll literally show you what it looks like when you first start the installation. So we're going to copy that.
Oh, the weird thing about copying and pasting into Putty as well is you just right click, don't you?
Yes, that is a very good point.
There's no Control C, Control V, hence the need for the mouse.
If this is your first time using Linux, then yeah, it's a really important thing to know. First of all, right click as copy. Second of all, if you're copying in a password, it's not going to show anything. It's not going to show any characters, not any blanked out characters. It will show nothing. You just kind of got to trust that it has pasted and then click enter. That's something that definitely catches people out the first time. So yep, so I've just installed. I'm just going to do that curl command anyway, just to be safe. But yeah, 0 upgraded, 0 newly installed, 0 to remove. It's, it's already installed, so 9 times out of 10, you don't need to worry about that command. And then I'm going to copy in the Plesk installer command, the one-click command.
Still think it was quicker for me to get the mouse than you have to type all that out. So
I mean, I wasn't even gonna. I was just gonna tell people. I basically explained to people what it looked like.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna skip over it if you went back in time. So this is now the Plesk installation running. It takes about 10 minutes. But like I said, I think we've made it look really complicated with the fact that I needed the mouse, but it really isn't that complicated.
So yeah, if you've got a mouse, you're better away.
But yeah, like once this is now this is running, you can kind of just walk away, go and get a coffee or something. You don't need to sit here and watch this. You just need to wait for the end screen to say, this is done. We're not going to sit here and wait for it.
No,
because I think that's a waste of everyone's time.
There was a question as well about it. Can your VPS not be ordered with Plesk installed already? So not these versions, and the reason is because it comes free with the VPS, which we've not done before. The license key kind of isn't basically, unless you need it, we don't install it just because of licensing and everything like that. There's no point in installing it if you don't need it.
Yeah.
So it might happen in the future. It's a bit of feedback I think we've had that sometimes, obviously, if you're not used to VPS, that sometimes it's a bit harder to do these sorts of things. We try to make it as kind of easy as possible, but at the moment, the VPS v2, because Plesk comes free, the reason it was able to be built in the past with Plesk already involved is because you were paying for the license. So obviously, it made sense to add it to the imaging. Yeah. But yeah, at the moment, you can't. But
yeah, never say never though. It may be something we look at in the future. But
yeah, hopefully, I mean, I'm really not the most technical. I can get into a server and stuff, and it took me 5 minutes, if
Yeah.
that, when I first did it.
It's very easy. Yeah, like the guide that Will's links, like it makes it super easy just to get started. So
It's putty, couple of commands, done.
That's it. So yeah, like I said, not going to sit here and watch this because that will take a little while. So
Here's one
here is one we made earlier. So when you have installed Plesk and when it's saying installation complete and it's giving you another line to start typing stuff in again, that's when you know it's done. You'll be able to come back into your control panel page, so the page where you got the login details, and you'll see that you got your license key, which you should make a note of definitely because you will need it literally in a few seconds. And you'll have a link to your admin panel, and this is how you're going to manage your server from here on out. This is Plesk, so this is the interface that you can use to host websites, but important for today, also set up mail servers as well. So I'm not going to click that one because that one is still installing, but this is on a server that we made earlier, and you can see that when you go into the link for the first time, you have a username and password prompt, and it's the same information that you use to log into SSH. So in this case, it'll be root again, and I'm going to copy the password from my notes. But again, it's all available on the control panel. We do recommend you change that once you're like set up and everything's ready to go. Like you don't want to, it's probably not worth leaving a default password like that. Set it to something that's properly secure, like a generated password or something like that. And if we click login, we're now into this page where it's giving us a welcome screen, and it's basically where we start to set up our Plesk interface. So first things first, you want to put in your email address. That's where it's going to, that's where all the updates are going to go. So any Plesk notifications that require an email, they're going to go to that email address. So make sure you do that. Do a password, so you can generate a password like that. In fact,
you can log into root, so you don't need to make a. True. You can just, if worst case scenario, if we get booted out, you can go back in with root afterwards.
Yeah, true. So I can just leave that as is.
Yeah.
Right? Sure?
Obviously, you would need to make. Sure? You'd obviously need to see it usually if you generate it, but we're not going to because we can gamble.
I don't want to.
He's going to make a note. Okay.
Making a note.
He doesn't trust me.
I don't trust you.
Which is fair.
Just because I know for a fact that it will go wrong. So yeah, make a note of the password. The generator there is really good. Obviously, if you want to use your own password generator, then by all means do that. You can just put the password straight in. So you don't need to necessarily use theirs, but it's perfectly decent, and the password generated will be very secure. So the next bit that we need to do is install the license. We're going to proceed with a paid license because you get your license for free. So let's go into our cloud panel, and we'll grab. Just realized I'm on a different server, so this isn't an issue you'll have. This is an issue we'll have because we've got 3 servers on the go to show you this whole process.
I do,
yeah. I do. It's this one.
So that you can remember, but not a mouse.
Nope.
Perfect.
So yeah, if you scroll down, here's a license key here. It's same layout as the other one, and this is the license key we'll need for this server. And if we go into God, I made a mess of it now.
There were so many tabs open there. Yeah. I'm kind of glad I'm not driving this time.
So paste that license key in, confirm you've read and accepted the end user license agreement. Obviously, if you haven't read it for the first time, give it a read. Make sure you know what you're agreeing to. But paste that in and then click Enter Plesk. And now it's going to start setting up the Plesk panel for you. This doesn't take that long.
No, this doesn't
take a couple minutes.
I love that little right. This doesn't take long. Right?
I had a brief moment of hang on. How long are we going to be waiting for this?
No, this one doesn't take too long. There was just another question I did answer in chat, but I will just answer it as we're waiting for that because it will take a second. Is it being recorded? Yes, it's going to be available on the same link actually afterwards, just as a recording. So. You can skip through all of the mouse getting and chat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Well, we're now on to the point where we're going to go through that list that you've got. So.
Oh, my list. Yes, I was going to actually be helpful, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I remember now. Well, my first thing to do was we were going to talk about firewall ports.
Firewall ports. Okay.
Yeah, probably a good time to do it now.
Yeah.
I'd say, or you can do it earlier. There's not really a specific order you need to do stuff in, really.
No, there isn't. So we're into Plesk. We know that's working, so we know that we're basically ready to start setting up. So that's great. What we're going to do, rather than continue with that, we're just going to go back into our control panel for our server. And what we want to do is we want to go into the network tab on the left-hand side and go into firewall policies. What we want to do is, before we go ahead and start setting everything up, let's open up all the ports we know we need for email. So remember when I said about the Plesk ports? If they're not open, if you have issues installing Plesk and it's indicating there's a port issue, these are the 2 ports that you need to make sure are in your firewall. As you can see, they're already there. Every time I've set up a server, VPS Edition 2, they've always been there. So the good thing about using our control panel is we actually make it really, really easy to add all of the email ports. What we can do is click the Add Predefined Rules, and let's have a look. So I know for a fact that we're going to want to set up an IMAP mailbox, because that's kind of your bog standard, the mailbox that works how you would expect a modern mailbox to work. So if we click on that, it's going to add in 2 ports for us. It's going to add in 143.993, and those are the secure and insecure ports for mail, for IMAP inbound in particular. And then what we can do is click Add Rule, and it will just add each rule individually for us.
And now it's going to update the firewall, which is going to take a couple of minutes. So, it depends.
To be fair, with this server line, it's normally a couple of seconds from my experience.
If you could scroll up a little bit.
So you can see, if this grays out, you can't do anything. That's because this is taking over.
Adding some. So there's 2 layers. Well, while that's doing, we'll just say there's 2 layers of security from a firewall perspective. So you've got your server firewall, and you've got our kind of like hardware firewall above that. So this is the hardware firewall. Usually the software one, we don't really need to worry too much about.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely up to your discretion if you want your own like local firewall on your server. You
can set it. We can show you. Plesk does it as well. You can manage it all through Plesk. We can show you where that is.
Yeah. I think maybe for the sake of this guide, we probably won't touch that, just to keep things simple.
It'll take a while.
But whenever you provision a new server, by default, obviously this firewall will be on and working and protecting your server. We don't necessarily initialize the local firewall for you, so that's something you need to go ahead and do yourself if that's something you want. But again, it's not necessarily something you need. It just depends on your requirements.
This is incoming, which is all you probably really need to worry about too much at the moment. But basically, if you ever get any connection errors, it's usually firewall would be the place I would start.
For sure.
Also port 25, so you will notice on this screen that port 25 doesn't exist.
It does.
It does, but opening it up there won't make much difference. So we block port 25 by default, just because it prevents abuse of servers, getting our IPs banned if someone's using a mail server to spam or do any of that sort of stuff. So if you want to use port 25, which you will if you're setting up as a mail server, you just need to contact support and just ask them to unblock it for you. Literally as simple as just dropping us an email or giving us a quick call or using live chat, however you want to do it. But yeah, just need to just ask us to unblock 25. You won't see that on this screen. No. Again, it's just to prevent abuse. Yeah. So
you will need to open 25 from what you can see. In their perspective, you do need to open port 25 because it's almost like a block after the firewall that you need to make sure is enabled. And that's the thing you need to call us or email us about. And like I said, it's not like a difficult process. It's literally, can I have port 25 open? Yeah. And they'll sort it out for you.
So 25 open there, yeah. 25. It's the only port that we kind of block on the 3rd layer of security.
Yeah. So what I just did then, whilst we're talking, I opened the SMTP predefined values. You can type these numbers out manually if you want to, but it's just a lot easier just to go in and click this stuff and just pop it all for you.
The only one that I can see that's missing off there would be POP if you were connecting via POP, which would be 995. But you can do it there at 110. So.
And then I'm just going to add that rule. Yeah. So I definitely recommend you do that before anything else. Just make sure you got all the ports open because I can't tell you the amount of times I've been like trying to set a server up, trying to get something running on a server, and I've forgotten I haven't done the firewall.
Yeah, it's worth doing early doors, especially if you've got to get 25 open through support. And you just want to drop us an email. Obviously, email take a little bit longer to get around to usually. So, I was just going to say as well. I mean, if everyone might know ports, but the secure ones here, for if you're connecting to IMAP, 993 is the secure port, POP 995 is the secure port, and 465 is the SMTP secure port. So 110, which is POP, is the insecure port. So that's when you don't need SSL essentially. And then which one? 143 for IMAP is again the one where you don't need any security, any SSL.
Yep.
So generally speaking, we'd recommend using the 993s, the 995s, and the 465s, just because we're going to cover setting up an SSL in a minute anyway. So yes.
So once we've done all of this, we've got the ports open, we've contacted support, got them to open port 25 on the back end for us. Then we are now ready to start actually setting up the email bit of the email server,
which is surprisingly quick.
It is. Plesk makes it super easy. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go back into our Plesk dashboard.
Make sure power user. Make sure power user is enabled. So you didn't have to do this. This is the one I had to do. So there's two views in Plesk. There's power user and the reseller view, which is what Tom's on at the moment. Personally, I prefer the power user one. Some people prefer the reseller one. But if you're not reselling, if you're just using it for what we're trying to do, power user is better. Yep. Bottom left, Tom.
Oh, change view.
Change view.
Never done this.
Yeah, switch to power user view.
I am going to switch back.
He was in service provider, and unless you're reselling, it doesn't really make sense to use the service provider one. For me, this is way more streamlined.
Yeah, I'm very used to using the other view, so I might.
Oh, are you actually? Yeah. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter.
Matter. Yeah, it's the same stuff. So
yeah.
So the first thing we're going to do to get emails working is actually turn on the email services, because they're not on by default. So we're going to go into Tools and Settings on the left-hand side, and then Mail Server Settings in this little list here. And we're going to click the tick box to enable mail management functions in Plesk. And that's actually just going to let us start setting up mailboxes. You can have a quick look through all of this stuff if you want. So you can see, you can kind of already start setting limitations on like what your mailboxes can do, how mail can be sent outbound and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go through everything today because there's a lot of stuff to go through. And it's definitely, if you need it, then you'll know about it kind of thing. So the one thing I'm going to do, just because we've got 587 open, I'm just going to enable SMTP service on port 587. Just whilst we're getting the email set up and we're troubleshooting, making sure everything's working, I just want to leave that open for now.
That's allowing it for without SSL.
Mm-hmm. But as I said, just for now, I just want to make sure that that's open, just so that we can properly. In fact, like I said, we've got another server ready to go to show you how it all works. But just, I think if you were setting this up for the first time, I would definitely recommend doing that, just so you know what is open and you can start to turn off insecure ports as you don't need them. That's pretty much everything that I would change on this page. The only other two things that I would take a look at are the DMARC and DKIM sections. So DMARC checks your incoming mail, and it's basically like an SPF record. It checks for spam. It's making sure that like your mailbox isn't getting hit by spam email. Vice versa, DKIM does the opposite. It checks outbound, so it makes sure that your mailbox hasn't been spoofed or taken over, etc. So both well worth using.
I've got guides on both of them.
You do.
Explain a little bit better.
I'll definitely check those in the chat. I think for time's sake, I probably won't go into it too much.
No, probably not. But basically, modern mail servers, realistically, you'd want DKIM signing on any outbound mail, which is what that is there. Mm-hmm. And you'd want some kind of DMARC policy on your domain. Yeah. I've got guides on what they... And I obviously the best guides ever written because I wrote them. So yes, hopefully they're helpful. But I will put them in the chat. So the DKIM guide I am not gonna add because it will probably be confusing for this. You don't really need. All you need to know is enable it in here and set it up in DNS, which we're going to show anyway. The guide explains what it is a little bit, but it goes through how to set it up on the fastest DNS. So it could be a little bit confusing. If I put it in the chat now, I'm conscious that if anyone's watching the recording, they might click on it and get a little bit confused. So I don't think it really necessarily needs to go.
I think if you're setting up your email services on a server for the first time, and that's where you're planning to use your mail services, the good thing about Plesk is it pretty much gives you all the information you need. You won't necessarily need to read that guide. If you want to learn more about DKIM and setting it up elsewhere, absolutely go and find that guide. Very easy to find. But for today, we're going to get all the information we need from Plesk, so that's going to make it really easy. I've made sure those two are ticked because we are going to want to use those, and then I'm going to click apply, and that has now changed it. I'm just going to click OK as well. That's just my brain. trying to make sure it's all sorted. So
mail queue on this settings, mail queue is a useful one, just for troubleshooting. But we'll
go on to that one in a bit.
We'll come on to that later.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can now start actually setting up mail services. So we're going to go into websites and domains, and we're going to add a new domain name. Now, I think one thing to mention now is when you're setting up, the way that we're going to show you how to set up a mail server does require you to change all of your DNS to point to this server. So whether that's, like, that includes your website hosting DNS as well, so your blank A record, your www. There are ways to just have your mail server set up and have your hosting elsewhere. We're not going to cover that today, but it isn't too complicated. It just means that you'd have to look at potentially getting a paid SSL certificate rather than the free. Can you do it with the free?
No, you can do it with free. So essentially, the way on Plesk, you can get Let's Encrypt certificate, which is a free SSL certificate, essentially, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to do that. However, in order to do an SSL Let's Encrypt SSL certificate through Plesk, you have to have all your DNS pointed at your Plesk server. Now, if you've got your website hosted elsewhere, then you're not going to want to do that, because obviously your A records for blank and www, or if you've got a CNAME, are going to point to your external provider. So you can go onto Let's Encrypt's website and you can set up an SSL certificate just for your mail domains on here. It's doable because you can set the verification through the DNS by adding a TXT record. You can't do that using the kind of the Plesk API at the moment. It's a commonly requested feature
since like 2017.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not something we can do a huge amount about, but basically it's possible. It's easy enough. However, if you're spending money on a server, you kind of may as well have it on here, but it's not always that straightforward. Appreciate that. But yes, you can do it. If anyone has got any questions about that, like just ask away.
Is it worth getting the sign up page for Let's Encrypt? Linking that in the chat, just so that people have got that option if they want to.
Okay, yeah, I can put that in there, because we're going to do it for the API.
Yeah, we're going to do it through Plesk itself, so we're not going to need to go outside of Plesk. And if you're planning on hosting your website, or you already have your website hosted on your server, then you won't need to do what we're going to link in the chat. But this is basically the alternative way of doing this if you want to keep your website hosted elsewhere.
Yeah, because essentially, if you want to add SSL through Plesk, you have to have all your A records pointed at Plesk. Yeah. So, but again, if you've got any questions, like our support team are literally here to support with this sort of stuff. So
yeah, they'll be able
if you get stuck, just
they'd definitely be able to explain all of this as well.
Right, I've got the link for Let's Encrypt.
So whilst he's going ahead and getting the link and getting that in the chat, I'm going to continue on. Which option you have here in terms of choosing a way of creating a website really depends on what it is you're doing. If you are literally just hosting the mail and that's it, then you probably don't need to mess around with any of this stuff. You can just click blank website. If you have a website that's already built, like a WordPress website, for example, there's several options here. You could potentially import from an Apple site. You could upload the files directly, which I think would probably be my recommended way of doing it, because then you know exactly what you're migrating across. You can also set up like blank installations of different types of websites as well, like WordPress. Just for today, I'm going to click blank website, because I'm not going to be messing around with that.
Yeah, and if you're importing WordPress, you can always start with, if you're not sure, just start with blank. Yep. It's typically the easiest way to do it, I find.
Yeah, you can always change it after as well. It's not...
Yeah.
There is an option to use a temporary domain name, but we're not going to go into that today.
Nope.
So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a new domain name. And what I'm going to do, just to make sure, I'm actually going to go into my control panel where I've posted my domain names of Fasthosts. And we're going to pick a domain name to use.
Can you remember which one it was?
I'm going to use this one, I think. I'm just going to check the DNS. Yes, this is the default. This is all set to default, so this will be a good example to show.
So this has not been used at all? No. Fresh domain.
Fresh domain. So we're going to paste that domain in. You can go into web space settings if you want to. We're going to, for the sake of this, the only thing I think you probably want to look at is maybe the system user credentials if you are going to upload a website.
Other than that, FTP and stuff like that, yeah.
But again, not something we're going to go into necessarily today. So I'm going to click add domain. It's now going to create basically a space on our server for this domain and its hosting to live. So again, this does not take long. In fact, there you go, it's done.
Yeah, I was going to say it normally take about 10 seconds or so. There you go.
So going to wait for it to... Is that blue bar?
No, I was going to say it is doing that, and you can just close at that point, I think.
So yeah, even after you've made it, you can still make changes to what kind of like initial installation you have. Like SiteJet Builder comes up as an option, for example. So don't panic if you're not quite sure what to do yet. Probably the safest thing is just to pick blank, and then you can change that later. So this is the domain name / like website hosting space on Plesk. It's already taken us to the domain we just added, which is great. And the thing that we're really interested in is mail. I believe this doesn't actually show up if you haven't enabled mail services.
It does, but you can only see mail settings because I got stuck on that initially. Told you, not technical.
Yeah. So if for whatever reason you only have mail settings, you have not enabled the mail server, it means you probably clicked the text box, but you didn't actually click apply, which is something, again, I've done plenty of times. So what we're going to do is go into mail accounts, and we're going to create a new email address. I'm just going to call this test. You can add an external email address that you can use to reset your password if you want to, depending on the purpose, depends on whether you need that or not. You can also set a password. You can generate a password. So again, you can just use that if you want to. You can use your own generator, whatever works. And you can also add a description as well. So if you need to like notate that mailbox in any way so you know what it is, then this is the way to do it. I'm just going to click OK. There's also some other stuff up there as well that you saw, but we're just going to leave it this for now.
Yeah, it's done. Although, if you're going to show logging in like webmail, you're probably going to need that password.
That's fine. We'll do it.
You've got one already, have you? Yeah. One I made earlier.
We've got another one we made earlier. So we set that up. That's fine. So this mailbox actually exists. Technically, it could start sending. It's not going to work yet because we still have another bit to do. In fact, just remind me, where on the list are we?
So we have added a mailbox. We were going to do DNS and DKIM now.
DNS and DKIM. Okay.
DNS and DKIM.
So we'll do DKIM first.
That one can't receive because we haven't done the DNS yet.
That's fine. So we're going to go back out into the web hosting space to get to the mail section. What we want to do is we're going to go into mail settings. And we're just going to scroll through and we're just going to double check everything is set up correctly. So we've got mail service enabled, which is what we want. We're going to go through and you can opt like what happens with non-existent users. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can change here, which again, I definitely recommend having a look at if it's something you're interested in. You can specify the type of mail server. You can install new mail server clients if you want to. If you again, this is the sort of thing where if you need to do that, then you know why you need to do that. The thing we're interested in right now is DKIM spam protection. We want to make sure that this is ticked. It's not always ticked by default.
Yes.
So make sure that is ticked. And make sure that it shows an active DKIM selector here as well.
Yeah, when I went through on here, I had to click create new DKIM selector. Yep. It gives you the default plus default and to do it, but you might need to just apply it and refresh the page. But you're going to want that.
Yep, for sure. That's the most important thing here. Just make sure that is ticked, and then click. Obviously, if you've made any changes, click apply. I haven't, but I'll click apply anyway because it's not going to make a difference. And then click OK to come out. So now we need to look at the DNS. And you might have noticed throughout this whole bit that we've had this little pop-up at the bottom, basically saying the domain can't resolve. And we need it to. We need the domain to resolve to the IP address.
So DNS is next on the list.
DNS is next on the list. So let's go back into websites and domains. We've got our domain name here. We're going to go into hosting and DNS. And as you can see, there's a red banner here saying domain is not resolvable. So we want to click on that and we want to change that.
So at the moment, the domain we've added is paid for and bought through FastHost, pointed at the FastHost name servers and set up with FastHost default DNS. So at the moment, everything is pointed to FastHost shared servers essentially. So we've got two options now, haven't we?
We do.
We can either keep the FastHost name servers and go in and add all of these DNS records into there. Bit long-winded, to be honest. That's what I would do if I was using or like an external. If you've got a lot of external services, so say you've got a website somewhere hosted somewhere else, and you've got kind of like all different bits and pieces like that, then it's probably just as easy to copy the DNS records you need from here over to the FastHost control panel. Are you in DNS on that domain name? So yeah, so this is the domain's DNS settings here. So what we could do is just go in and change the points to IP for like mail server, and essentially go back to Plesk, please. Sorry. Yeah, just copy these records, the ones we need over to there. So you'd want to do webmail, and all of those sorts of the useful ones. We wouldn't want to do the www.cname, and we wouldn't want to do the some of the others that would relate to the website essentially rather. But a lot of these are to do with mail. So
yeah, and in fairness, if you're hosting your website on this server, then you'd want to make the change anyway. At that point, you probably just want to change your name server regardless. But
option 2 is to change your name server over to Plesk, which if you've got you need to glue the records, but it's again really easy. If you want to change the domain's name servers over to Plesk, obviously this is going to be different for the curse. Are we cursed? Is it just timed out?
I think this domain's broken.
No.
This domain is broken. I think the domain page is broken.
Is it? Refresh page?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think you just timed out. No.
I can go into anywhere but domain name. But
are you actually kidding me? No way. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that. That's the honest to curse. It doesn't matter. There's essentially, if you want to change, you can change the domain's name servers to your servers and go back into Plesk, which hopefully is still working as we see.
This is where you change your name servers.
Okay.
Manage name servers, you do that.
Yeah. So you could go, if you went into manage name servers, there's the NS records in Plesk would be what you would change it to. So yeah, you could just specify name servers and then go into Plesk.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll have NS records here. So ns1.fhtechtips.co.uk, and you'll need the IP address of your server. You go and put that in there. Do you know what? I'm going to put the guide in.
I think this is after getting over the initial SSH stuff. This is probably the most technical / laborious part of setting it up, because what's going to happen is if you change your name servers, you potentially could be waiting up to 72 hours before any change is actually made.
Yes.
Which obviously, if you need this urgently, that's not ideal. It is obviously the simpler way of doing it, but you do have to wait. Alternatively, what you can do is come into the DNS zone on Plesk and just start copying out your DNS records into your fasthost DNS zone or wherever it is you've got your DNS.
Yeah.
I think the most important things that you need to be aware that you're going to want to move, if you're going to do it the way that we're doing it today, the most important ones are making sure that your A record, your blank A record is changed. Where is that? Am I being blind? There it is. You want to make sure your blank A record is changed, so the one that just is your domain name. Because that's how the server is going to resolve to, or the domain name is going to resolve to your server. So you need to make sure that is changed. You need to make sure that your mail dot. I would recommend that you change your mail dot domain record and make sure that is pointing to the server IP, because you're going to use that later. And I would also make sure that you are going to add in your DKIM record. This wouldn't show up if you hadn't enabled DKIM, so that's why we did that earlier. This is just a TXT record, so it looks like massively complicated. It's not. You literally just copy in the host name, so the bit before your domain name. You'd put that as a record in your DNS. I'll just show you quickly, just because I think this is probably one of the more complicated ones to do. I think this is the one that I do want to show. So you go down to your TXT records. You can see I've already got some TXT records because of Fasto's stuff. So if there's anything that's conflicting, make sure you just remove it. I'm going to add in a new TXT record, and the host name was this. Oh, that's my domain name.
It's not that.
That's not that bit. It is. How's that happen? So it's this bit here.
T4_domain key.
Yeah, T4_domain key. You want to copy that over. That's the host name. Anything before your domain name with a dot is a host name. So when it's asking for a host name, that's what you want. And the value literally just is this whole value here. Just make sure that you
get the whole thing.
A, get the whole thing. B, don't copy everything underneath it, which is, again, annoyingly easy to do. So that's one of the most complicated ones. You could potentially add in, I think everything we covered there are the necessary ones, the ones you need to be worried about. I would make sure that your MX record correlates to a host name where you've put in the server IP. That's really important. So if you've changed IP from mail dot to your server IP, make sure your MX record is mail.
Yeah,
Mail dot your domain name.
Yeah.
That's another important one.
Oh, I love DNS. It's so fun.
I hate DNS. I think that's all of the most important stuff that you'd need to be aware of. There's other things like SRV records. I've managed to get the server working without implementing SRV records. And for those who don't know what they are, SRV records are basically how you would, via DNS, specify a port to be used for a service. So, for example, I'm just going to click that because I can't zoom scroll back.
So you can't find the scrollers. There you go.
Yeah, so basically you'd use it to say, for example, when we were opening those ports, so like 993 for IMAP, for example, we could specify 993 using an SRV record. It is also the default port. So as far as I can tell, you don't need to do that. And Plesk will just know that 993 is the default record and it'll be fine. But you can copy over these SRV records if you need to, if you're finding you're having issues, or you want to use a different port than the default ones. The SRVs are the only other like really complicated record, and it's purely just because they look like this. If you edit the resource record in Plesk, you'll see that it's kind of made up of a whole bunch of different things. And if you go into your Fasthost DNS and add an SRV record, you'll see it's kind of the same, but it's actually way easier to do than you'd think. So all you need to do is take the service name, pop that in. Yes, take your service name, pop that in your host name. So you want service and you want protocol. So you can see it's got POP3S, and what you also want is your TCP, because that's your protocol. So you need to make sure you've also got that as well. For example, and it needs an underscore with it as well. So make sure you're reading everything you.
Yeah, these ones are a little bit more painful, and again, if you get stuck with any of this,
this isn't necessarily a necessary one, but it's just, again, if you want to make sure you're specifying ports, this is how you would do it. If you have any issues with your ports not working, even though you think everything's open, contact support. It may be that this is a potential issue. But again, you point it to your IP address. You'd add in the port, specify that you want to point the email to if you want to do that. And then you set a weight, which can be just left as 0, because that's what they do by default on Plesk. So you don't need to change that. And if you need to change that, then you should know why you're changing that. So yeah, that's I only wanted to show that because it's like the most complicated DNS record that you'll have to add, or may need to add, but chances are you probably don't.
But yeah, the DKIM and stuff, you make sure you get that added in before, because if you don't do the DNS before sending email, everything will get rejected because your DKIM record won't be available.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So it's your DKIM record, your DMARC record, so this is your DMARC here. Make sure that's in. Your SPF record, make sure that's in as well. So the TXTs, make sure pretty much all of them every time. Make sure your TXT records are in there. After that, webmail is another one you want to make sure you got. I would say that unless you have a very specific reason not to, anything you see in here that either doesn't exist in your current DNS or matches to something that's already in your DNS but points somewhere else, change it to this. That's probably your best way of doing it. Now, I could go ahead and start making all these changes. And actually, our DNS servers are quite quick. So when I make these changes, it only takes like a minute or two for it to actually start resolving.
Yeah. It's usually really quick. The TTL is really quick. Or time to live, say that.
But there's so many records to change that, again, like I said, it's going to be laborious. But just make sure you're getting the important stuff, getting your webmail, getting your blank A record in. Make sure you're getting your mail dot in there. Make sure you're getting your MX record sorted out, all that stuff. If you have any issues, there's two things it's going to be. It's going to be a port, so it's going to be a DNS. Those are the two stumbling blocks, I think, when it comes to setting basically anything up on a server. So just make sure you are copying over everything you need. And again, if you ever have any issues with getting this set up, let us know. We can probably take a look and let you know where you've gone wrong.
Yeah. Just while there was a quick question, I'm just going to stop you there as you took a breath. Someone just asked, I have to go back to the question, bear with me 2 seconds. Paulie Buffalo just asked, can MTA STS be set up The answer to that question, I think, is yes, but I don't think it's a default thing within Plesk yet. So I just, as Tom was talking there, I just got in contact with one of our tech agents, and he just sent me that back. He says, essentially, yes, you can do it. Might take a little bit of manual effort, but I don't think it's default within Plesk yet. But there's more information on that Plesk thread there. The really good thing about Plesk is there's like, if you want to do anything, there's a huge chance that someone's already wanted to do it in the past. So you can kind of, there's quite a lot of support around, and like I say, our support guys will be able to help to an extent. It's self-managed to an extent. We will support basic Plesk stuff though. So, but yeah, if you want to do anything a bit more complicated, there is usually some documentation around that can help.
Yep. What I've realised is we need to show an SSL record.
An SSL record?
Adding an SSL certificate.
Okay.
Which we cannot do because this domain does not.
You resolving the... Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So what I'm going to do is hopefully show just how quick our DNS servers are resolving changes.
Yes.
Because what I need to do is make sure that this is pointing to the server.
Yeah. Do you need to do www as well? I would, just to be safe.
Yeah, there's no... I mean, for the sake of doing it today, there's no harm in.
Just to be safe. I don't think it resolves to that when it does the SSL, but...
So yes, just make sure you're grabbing, like, it's the same record. You don't need to come and like grab every individual record. If it's the same IP, just copy that into any records that make sense to do. But like I said, we're going to host our DNS elsewhere. So. Yeah,
setting up SSL, logging in, that's what we got left to kind of cover off, really. So
yeah. So I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to see if it's already working. It may not be. Like I said, a website will be up and running once DNS change comes into effect. It may take up to 24 hours.
It shouldn't take 24 hours.
Again,
if you change a name server, it will take longer. Yep. Just a DNS record is usually pretty quick. What's called a TTL or a time to live record is usually not long at all, and that's just how often it update, how often changes you make update in real time.
So we're going to try and add an SSL TLS certificate. If this doesn't work, rest assured the process is super easy to do.
Yeah.
I'm only going to try this once because I'm very conscious of time.
Yes. It's taking longer than I thought it was.
Let me explain where I got
there.
So back into your website and domain name section. On the domain name you want to do it on, go into the dashboard, and then down at the bottom here, SSL/TLS. Click that. And what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to do the free one. So install a free basic certificate provided by Let's Encrypt. Again, if you've got all your DNS resolving to your server, then this is one that you can use. It's not the most secure. It's not the highest quality, but it will get you off the ground at least. And then once you know everything's working, then you can start to invest in a better SSL certificate if that's what you want to do. But for
they are good.
They're fine. Yeah, absolutely fine.
Do the job.
They absolutely do the job. But yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click install. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select secure wildcard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also just going to make sure that the mail domain is ticked there as well. I just want to make sure that all of the mail services are set up and are protected by SSL.
Yeah, so wildcard will do every subdomain, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just to confirm that.
Yeah. I'm going to click, get it free. Fingers crossed. Well, I mean, if it's done it already, then that's super quick. No, it hasn't.
Is it not done?
Nope.
Not the SSL DNS issue yet?
Yeah, DNS issue. Oh, I think there's a... Oh, these might be the problem. Let me just remove these records.
So is that just IPv6?
Yeah, IPv6, which we don't need for this instance. So, if you have used your domain for like WordPress hosting with us or anything like that, then you might have these records, and they can interfere with setting up an SSL. I'm just going to try it one more time. It may not work. That may be too quick, but...
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
There we go.
I am shocked.
Oh, it really was quick.
It was. So, like I said, it's super easy to add this in now. How it verifies is you use a TXT record and you add that to your domain, like you did with the DKIM, the SPF record, the DMARC record, and all that. And it tells you domain name _Acme challenge, and it shows the whole domain name, but the bit in bold is the bit you need. So you just want to grab that, go into your DNS, scroll right down to the bottom, add a TXT record, add in that host name that you wanted, the _Acme challenge, and then grab the record, which is just a string of letters and numbers. Get myself lost here. Right. Click save. Once that's added and once it's resolved, propagated, you'll then be able to confirm the certificate.
Should be able to do it.
And if the other one was that quick, then I reckon this one will be pretty quick as well. I'm going to click continue. If this works, I'll be
usually it's
mind-blown.
pretty instant because I don't think it resolves in the traditional sense.
Yep.
So
Perfect. So, so there we go. That's now confirmed the SSL certificate. That's all you need to do is add an SSL certificate. And you will want to do that if you want to have secure mail. You do want secure mail because, secure mail definitely influences your spam score, right? I'm not. Am I crazy in thinking that?
Not sure. It's more just it's better to have the encryption, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're sending email unencrypted between whichever mail client you're using and your server, and you're just more susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks, really. Like if you're using public Wi-Fi spots or whatever, it's just better to use a secure protocol rather than the unsecured ones.
I mean, I know for a fact that pretty much any major mail provider, whoever they are, they're going to be using, like if they offer you emails, it's going to be secured by SSL. And I also know for a fact that for a lot of email providers, if an email is coming from an insecure source, it may not reach that area. Like it may get rejected because it's not coming from a secure box. So I think it's always worth having an SSL certificate on your server.
100%.
Whatever you're doing, just make sure you got it secured by SSL. Right. Well, we've been here for nearly an hour now, so I think it's about time to start sending some emails.
Yeah.
So obviously we've added some of the DNS. The next server that I'm going on to is one where we've added all of that DNS. We've got all the DNS set up ready to go.
So this is a new server where we've kind of done all of the stuff. Although, to be fair, that one probably would have worked now. Which might be good because, hey, this one doesn't look like it's going to work.
Bloody typical, isn't it?
That's an internal error, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
Yeah,
Just refresh it a sec, because that's been there for a while. I wonder if it's... Oh, is your server gone down?
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Honest to gosh, the last time we did a live session...
The curse.
ChatGPT wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I don't ever think that's happened.
I don't want this to reflect poorly on our services. This is our luck. This is not our services. This always happens.
It's the curse of the live stream. Luckily, the one we've just done should work. Did we set the DNS up? We didn't set the DNS.
Well, you're about to see it live. You're about to see DNS set up live, which I didn't really want to do because it's really boring, but we're gonna have to do it. So frustratingly. I'm gobsmacked. I really am.
Are you really that surprised though? Because every time we do a live stream, unless it's recorded and on slides, something breaks.
I used that this morning. That server I used this morning.
Maybe
like
you
I tested it.
Maybe you did it on purpose. Maybe your cast.
Maybe.
ChatGPT is my favourite one so far. Where it always works. And as soon as we're doing a live stream, what is that? A thing about Murphy's Law?
Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we've got the domain key in there for our.
Is that that's the
DKIM stuff?
I don't think we need that now though. Honestly, what are we going to show? It'll bounce if we send it, but do you really need to show it?
Probably not.
Like, it's going to make much difference. You can show just logging in and send a mail.
So you're gonna have to pretend that this works.
It should work. There's no real reason that it shouldn't.
Let me just.
Why are you changing that?
Webmail, so I can actually get into the webmail.
You don't need to change www though. Just change.
I didn't change www.
Did you not?
Webmail.
I just don't know what I'm looking at really. I think my eyes have gone cross-eyed now. Lost the will to live.
It's gonna do some last changes. Sorry, this is very much like on the fly because even with all the preparation that we did.
I told you we should have had about 4 servers set up ready just in case.
That's mad.
We have a curse. We're cursed.
That's mad. Okay. So
if you ever want us to take something down, guys, just ask us to do a live stream on it. I guarantee it will go down. Nothing is safe.
I've added in, so what I've done there is I've added in the mail record, which I've then also changed the MX record to mail, specifically so that those two are like talking to each other. Then make sure that it's resolving to the right place.
Yeah, mail dot resolves to that server IP.
I've also changed the webmail DNS record because I want to access webmail for this mailbox. And I've also changed the www dot and the blank, which we did earlier. That was to make sure the SSL was working. I removed any IPv6, so quad A records. I've got rid of those. We don't need them, and they'll interfere with what we're trying to do. These CNAME records are fine. I'm just going to leave them as is, but there are CNAME records you might want to add in Plesk depending on what you're doing with it. So that's something to keep an eye on. Already talked about the MX record. I haven't added an SRV record. We're not going to look at a mail client setup today, but like I said, it should work by default without using the SRV record, so I wouldn't worry about that.
That SPF record.
We need to change the SPF record. So we're going to do that very quickly because that will absolutely interfere with mail transfer. Edit. Paste.
Now that's so again SPF won't go into it because of time, but yeah, that's our server host name there in that SPF record.
Yeah.
So it was showing live mail before, which is the Fasto shared servers.
Yeah. Don't need to worry about that. That's because I had WordPress hosting on this domain beforehand, and I've gotten rid of that. We've got the default domain key for DKIM, which I did earlier, and I showed you that. We have the Acme challenge for our SSL certificate, and we have a DMARC. Can I just double check?
Don't worry too much about DMARC.
I mean,
it shouldn't matter because it's just a very basic one in the fastest control panel, so it shouldn't.
Oh, it's actually not even on.
Yeah, I was going to say it is on technically, but it's just there. I would leave that personally.
We're going to leave that as is then.
DMARC, I did put the DMARC can be quite complicated. I've put a link to the help guide that I wrote on it. It just tells you all the parameters you can use to kind of just.
I just can't believe it. I don't.
I can't. I told you earlier. If one of our servers doesn't go down, I'll be amazed.
I know. So, just to test and show this is working. Hopefully, this bit works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to webmail dot and then the domain name.
You don't know the password for the mailbox you set up, by the way.
I don't know.
Because we didn't think we were going to need it.
But let's make sure this bit works first.
Yeah.
Webmail dot.
Hey.
So that's the webmail interface. So if you were like accessing this mailbox on a web browser like this is how you would do it. If you're not, haven't got it set up on your phone or on like an Outlook client or anything like that, this is the easiest way to use your mailbox and also test it's working as well. Because if something works in webmail but doesn't work in a client, that indicates the server's fine, but there's a configuration issue somewhere that's impacting your client.
Webmail is always when we're doing support for shared services, it's always can you log into webmail just so we can actually check the mailbox is working.
Absolutely.
Because if you can't log into webmail, it's either an authentication issue or something on the server.
Yep. So yeah, you're right. I don't have the password, so I'm gonna
Go to mail.
Am I being blind? Can I see it?
Go to mail.
That's right there. There you go. Test. I'm gonna
put password in.
I'm just gonna hang on. Gonna grab it to another screen.
Okay, you don't want to show everyone the password.
Just in case.
Ugh.
Not that I don't trust you, but this is definitely don't show any passwords on a public live stream. That's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Show. Copy that into my notes. Okay. And
so, there you go.
So I'm going to drag that. Is that still showing? It is.
Yeah, it is.
Right, I'm going to drag that back over so you can see it again. And so we've got a password there. I'm going to apply that password. That's how you would change a password.
Also how you change a password. Yeah. Yes, there you go.
Very easy.
Something we weren't going to show you, but hey, here we are.
So now I've set that password. What I can do is take the email address, put it as the username in Roundcube in our webmail, and I've got our password that we just set for that mailbox. And there we go. This is that in itself is already telling us that the webmail is functioning. So that's good. And what we can do is send out a test email from this mailbox. If it's working, then the other side is going to receive that email. And what you also probably want to do, if you in the testing process, you want to make sure everything's working. Get that person to then send you an email back. Make sure your sending and receiving is both working. If it is, then you've got a mail server set up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And everything should hopefully work. Like I said, you can also set this up in a mail client if you want to. Should we? Have we got time? Or should we leave it?
Let's do it as the last thing. If people
Right.
want to see it, they can say. If
Yeah.
not, then we'll go. The one thing I would say, if there's a bit of troubleshooting now, go back into Plesk, please.
Okay.
Just because I found this when I was doing
Yep.
it. If you're sending and they're not receiving, you can just check the mail queue on the server.
Yep.
So tools and settings, and the mail queue. You can just have a look here. So if there's any mails sat in here, you'll know that this either going to, usually it'll be some kind of firewall issue if it's sat in here without sending. Or usually if you send it and it bounces back, I don't think it sits in the mail queue, but really good place to start when you're troubleshooting is mail queue if something's not sending.
Yeah.
But again, support, we're here for you.
Yeah.
If you need any help with that stuff. So
yeah, outbound email issues, check your mail queue first. If someone's not receiving email, make sure it's actually left your server, because that's normally indicative of some kind of config issue.
Firewall was what caused it for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
when my stuff was
usually
stuck.
what it is. But yeah, so let's very quickly show you how you would set this up in a mail client.
This is the last bit, so
Yep.
like you don't need to watch this now if you're bored of us talking.
Now would be a good time if you've got any questions.
Yes, if you've got any questions.
I'll show you this.
While Tom's showing you this far away. Yeah, we're happy to ask, but this will be the last thing we kind of show. So any questions, please ask now. Otherwise, Tom will just quickly show you how to do kind of if you're setting up this will be the same for a phone or Mac mail or kind of any mail client. The settings are going to be the same.
You're going to want to just this is the way that I do it, because I tend to find that this means we just get it set up first time straight away. I always opt to set the account up manually, especially with IMAP. If it's something like Exchange, then you don't need to do that. But obviously we haven't got an Exchange server. So it's going to let me choose the account type. Again, most mail clients will let you do this. In our case, we want to set this up as an IMAP mailbox. IMAP functions like any mailbox you've probably known, where you can send, receive, and it'll refresh on the server, and you can see it in multiple places.
Yes.
POP, everything goes to one mailbox. Unless you have a real reason, don't use POP.
There's not. The
There's
only
limited-
time POP is one of those ones, but like when the mail things were done, it was quite common to really have a really small mailbox, and you just downloaded all your mail to one mail client to save space. But nowadays, I don't really see the point of using it. But people still do, so you can use POP if you want. But generally, if you've got more than one device connected to that mailbox, it's just going to cause you headaches. So.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where if you're using it, you probably already know why you're using it. Like you have a reason for doing it. So this is the settings page, and again, this is going to be very similar whatever mail client you're looking at. In our case, remember that we set mail.fhtettips as the server IP, so that's how the mail client is going to talk to the server for inbound mail.
We did the DNS. We've done the DNS. For this, so.
We've set the port 993, which is the secure port, which is going to work because we have an SSL certificate, and that's shown here as well. If you happen to have a different kind of certificate, you can change that if you want to, but for us, that's what we want. And then in outgoing, again, we've got mail.domain. Basically, this literally, you could have any host name. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Mail makes sense because
just use the IP address of your server. If you
exactly. You could just use the domain name if you wanted to. Like, it doesn't really matter that much. But by using mail. It means you're kind of separating it out from everything else. If you change one thing, you're not necessarily impacting your mail accidentally. So it's worth separating out things like that.
Yes, for like fast hosts where we've got separate servers for everything, we have to have different ones. But everything's going through the same server here, so you can just it all resolves the same IP.
Yeah. And hopefully, if I click next,
oh god, I can't
watch. It would be the icing on the cake if this fails, and if it does, honestly, you're just gonna have to trust us that it works. Hey,
did it work?
First time. There we go. And yep, there we go. It's set up. And the good thing about when you set it up on a mail client is that usually, if you've got to that point, you kind of already know everything's working, because it has to do tests just to get to this stage in the first place. As you can see, we've got a Microsoft Outlook test message.
Do we want to see whether it's in the webmail?
We can.
Do you want to see?
Let's go in the webmail.
I'm scared.
Let's go into mail. There it is.
Oh, it's there.
So now we know both are working now. That's evidence that both are refreshing to the server. Everything's working. There we go.
Yeah.
We didn't need the broken server after all.
The gamble is sending now. So usually if you send and something's not been set up, you'll get a bounce back. Yeah. So if it's something like SPF is not set up properly or DKIM is not set up properly, you'll get a bounce.
I don't know if I want to.
Oh, do we want to? And does anyone have any questions, by the way?
Yeah,
this is, like you say, this is a good time to ask questions now while we're just
we're kind of just having fun at this point.
Yeah, just it's been a learning experience for us as well.
You can say that again.
And we'll see whether we get a bounce from this. I'm very conscious. We blitzed over the DNS for this, so I feel like something's going to break. But 25 was unlocked on this server, wasn't it? Did we get it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I got that sorted out yesterday. I'm just writing out some text. Just it helps with like your spam score and stuff like that. Just having like a full like written out message.
Yeah. I don't think if it goes to your spam, it goes to your spam.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It's not gonna matter.
That still means it's working. So, quick send. It's in our sent. Let's check our queue and just refresh the page. Nothing in the queue.
Nothing in the queue. That's a good sign.
And I just realised I'm going to have to show my work email.
I was going to say, you probably, maybe don't show that on that screen.
Right, again, you have to take my word for it.
Yeah. Because you can reply to it.
I can reply to it. I'll see if it's there and I'll reply to it.
And
it's there.
Oh, yes.
It's there, so I'm going to reply to it. Yes.
Spam control, that's a good question. So we'll just go through that. That's a good question from Gary Jones. We'll show you that. We're very excited that this is working.
Yeah, this is
So spam control is built into Plesk essentially, but we'll go through and show it to you now quickly.
There it is.
Yeah,
it's in. So that's definitely working. 100%. The mailbox is working.
And DKIM and everything is set up as well, which is really good news.
Yeah. So that actually shows how easy it is to set up because we did that literally in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, with the DNS.
Set up. So
it's actually really quick. I mean, we've been talking for an hour and 15 somehow. We were like, oh, this is going to be like a 20-minute video. It's going to be really quick. And it's somehow taking us a long time. But we like to be thorough because, you know, me and Tom both went through this process separately so we could find any kind of common issues that we might run into. And we found a couple of bits and pieces that we've covered off here with DNS and stuff like that. So
the common issues that you run into and stuff.
Yeah, so I do apologise that it's taken so long. But right, yes. Now on to Q&A. So any more questions, please ask. We will do spam control very quickly. So tools and settings, as you can see there.
Spam filter.
Yep. You've got a few options for here. So the good thing about Plesk is that you can set up a few bits and pieces on here. So Spam Assassin's not installed yet, so that's a good. We can do that. Let's go and show it.
Where do we do that?
It'll be in tasks, and it'll be tools and settings, and it'll be in the is it server management, system updates, could be, or server components in server management over there.
Yep.
I'm pointing. You guys obviously can't see what I'm pointing at. No, it's not that one. It's in the updates bit. I can't. With me.
System updates.
It's not because I'll go down to Bliss and Plesk actually. It might be the
updates.
It could be updates.
This isn't something that we've necessarily.
Spam Assassin comes in with it, so it's just activating it. But I'll go back. It's not that because that's Plesk updates. It's the server. It's components, but I can't remember. Is it the server settings? No.
Yeah. So this might be a Google job.
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I just can't remember exactly where it is.
So let's do how to install spam assassin Plesk.
Actually, to be fair, I know where it is. I can't remember where it is. There it goes. Oh, it is updates.
Updates.
I apologise because that's what you said it was, and I said no, it's not in updates.
I'm going to drag that to my other tab so I can follow that. Where we're doing.
Well, I can do it from there. I just need to find the option. Yeah.
Fine. Right.
So yeah, go to updates. So it's under server management. Oh no, hang on, was it? Oh no, yeah, Plesk, under Plesk, go down. Updates. There we go.
Yep.
There we go. And add remove components.
There we go.
So this is probably useful for just general Plesk usage anyway. This is where you can kind of activate things. Plesk comes with a bunch of default stuff that you can install. You can also install other things. There's loads of plugins for Plesk. So Spam Assassin is the default thing that Tom is showing you here. So you can install that. So go ahead and do that. So yeah, just continue now. There's a few bits and pieces like premium antivirus. Some of these are chargeable. You get a free trial with it. But it's kind of the same with any kind of like WordPress and all that sort of stuff. You can install stuff through the Plesk screen there, add components, things like SSL you can usually do through the SSL section.
Yep.
Some of them will be chargeable, some of them will be free, but there you go. Like Spam Assassin is free, so I think that's done.
Click OK.
And now you get some more options when you go back to that spam part. And thank you, Harry. You're welcome. Again, well done for sitting through that for as long as that. That's been a long one. This is the longest one we've ever done. I thought it was going to be quick.
So did I.
Yeah, it was really quick. But yeah, again, we tried to be thorough because, again, we ran into a few things that are just painful. So we tried to cover it. Right, there you go.
So
Spam Assassin settings. So Spam Assassin is fairly, I think say basic is potentially not the right word for it, but it's not. A lot of really in-depth spam stuff comes through now is AI based. You won't get any of that from Spam Assassin because it's just a kind of open source thing. But yeah, essentially you can choose here the processes. So you can set the spam score. So if you want it higher, I think I can't read. I need glasses apparently. The maximum spam work processes to run. That's fine. Required score 7. So again, if you want to mark more stuff as spam, you would lower that. So essentially, it goes through. It's like, has it got DKIM? So it would give it a higher score, a higher spam score. It would give it a mark essentially for just a bunch of different things. If you want to kind of go into depth with Spam Assassin, they've got loads of documentation, but essentially the lower the required score, the more likely stuff is to get marked as spam, but you'll probably find legitimate stuff gets marked when you've got 1 because that's really low. But essentially that's how you manage spam.
Is very similar to how our spam
Yeah,
scores work.
yeah, it's very, very similar to the fastest ones. It's pretty basic, this one, but you can install more in-depth ones, but it'll cost money, essentially. Is there any SMTP IP4 addresses rotation to get? You can do SMTP IPv4 rotation if you wanted to. Can you add the IPv4 addresses at the moment?
I don't know that you can. Not to addition twos.
I
Let me
feel
double check.
like this is a feature that's coming soon.
Yeah. I think it's also probably worth mentioning if you're getting DNSBL issues, and it's not something that's like a holdover historically from that IP address, it's going to be worth looking into like why that's happening, because it could be that you have another IP address and then because there's an existing issue on your configuration, it's just going to do the same thing anyway, and then you've just spent money on another IP address for no benefit. So definitely like try and find out why you're getting hit if you are.
But yeah, in answer to your question, yeah, you can change your IP address to that sends, but I don't think you can actually assign any more IPv4 addresses to Plesk at the moment because that'll be the issue at the moment. It's a feature that's coming soon, but I don't think you can add them at the moment. Yeah, no, public IP.
Public IP. No. Price can be displayed. It's not. Yeah, it's not an option, unfortunately.
It's coming. This one is something actually I've heard mentioned on support a few times about it, because obviously you might want more than one IPv4 address if you're doing various things. You don't want to be using IPv6, but at the moment you can't add IPv4 addresses. But yeah, you can do it in Plesk if you just quickly mop into Plesk, because I'm fairly confident I know where the setting is here. So. Actually, thank you, Rogas, for actually helping us out there by answering the question for us. I think this might be a link coming. But yeah, if you go into there, it's under the server settings, I think. I can't remember what it is. You can just use search. It's probably a good way to show there.
So
just put IPv4. Yeah, IP addresses. Yep. So that's in tools and settings, IP addresses. So yeah, at the moment you can add. You would be able to add another IP there if you added one through the fastest control panel. Yep. You'd need to add it in Plesk there, and then it would be in mail settings, I think, to send to change the setting to change the SMTP one.
Yeah.
I can't remember where it is.
I think it'll be
it'll be under there. Yeah.
Treading some old ground that I haven't looked at.
Yeah, this is going back to my days in support now, which I can't remember where it is. Yeah, there you go. You can there you go. So then you change it from there. So yeah, you can basically. But at the moment, no, you can't on these specific servers. If you've got a different server with Plesk, how we just showed you there would be how you did it. So,
yeah, so like something like a dedicated server, you'd absolutely be able to do that.
Cloud NX.
Yeah,
Cloud NX, you could
well.
do it. Yeah, it's coming as well. Like, this is a feature that is coming.
Yeah.
Like I say, we spoke to product managers about this fairly recently, and it's just
Yeah,
is coming.
it's definitely like not an unusual requirement that people have more than one IP address.
No. Especially if you are a service provider, you might want it. As well, you might have troublesome clients who tend to send mail they shouldn't be, and you'd want to kind of isolate them to their own IPs and stuff like that. You never know, just in case. Worth noting, it is against terms of service to spam or phish or anything like that from these servers. So yeah, like Tom said earlier, if you are getting blocklisted, you probably want to find out why.
Yeah. I think when I was on support, a lot of the cases that we saw was because of things that were happening on the server that the customer didn't necessarily know about, or as simple as they were doing an email campaign where it was quite unsolicited and they were getting reported manually by recipients. That can happen as well. So a lot of it comes down to the content you're sending, but also like make sure you're monitoring your server, make sure you're seeing what's happening, what's coming in, what's coming out.
Because as well, there's possibilities if you have got a website on there and it gets compromised, it can send out emails, phishing emails requesting passwords, and then you'll get blacklisted, and that will be painful. But it can happen, and sometimes the blacklist is the first indication that something is awry.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's worth finding out why it is. It's incredibly difficult to deal with blocklist providers, mind you. Again, we're here for any kind of first point of contact for this sort of stuff if you need any kind of advice and stuff. But yeah, I think that answers the question. Obviously, do feel free to follow up if there's anything we missed there. If there's any other questions or anything, let us know. Still a few people amazingly still on the stream, which I do thank greatly, because that took a long. We genuinely said this is going to be a really short stream. The process is really quick, but I think when you're explaining the process and trying to make sure you are kind of explaining it properly, it just takes longer. But I could have done this myself in about 10 minutes, but it's just explaining it, isn't it?
What eRogue says, absolutely correct. Like that's, if you've got those basics in there, then you shouldn't have any issues as long as your content's not spammy or something like that.
Funny enough, as well, Rogue just said, so as long as you have a valid host name, reverse DNS, SPF, and DMARC, you shouldn't have any issues with DNS blacklist, which is true. As long as you're not spamming, there you go. I've been down the DNS blacklist rabbit hole before. Yes, it is. Even for us as a big mail provider, when we get added to blacklists or whatever, it is difficult to deal with blacklist providers. Generally speaking, it's all automated, and it's you've been added for 24 hours. Have fun with that.
I think the one benefit if you're hosting a mail with a service provider is if they do have issues, chances are they've had these issues plenty of times, so they know exactly who to contact, how to try and get it pushed along as quickly as they can.
We've got contacts now in pretty much all the blacklist providers. So it's one of those things. It can be awkward, and they just they're generally not interested, I would say. It's like, well, you've been picked up for a reason, and they're
there to do what they do.
They're busy as well. There's so many emails that go through servers, so it's a bit of a rabbit hole. But cool.
Okay. Probably last call for any questions that you might have.
Do you know, I'm gonna ask a question because I don't really know the answer to this, and you probably know. Reverse DNS, is it set by default on those servers?
Because you are challenging my support memory now.
Yeah, I'm just because I know VPS used to be we had to add the reverse DNS records.
As far as I'm aware, it's there by default now. So as long as your domain links to your service, as long as it's resolvable to your server, then
reverse DNS is set by default because it's the VM, isn't it? That you have to set it on the back end of ours. So reverse DNS you can't set, but we can.
eRogue, please tell us if that's incorrect, but I'm pretty sure that is.
Ethan. It's like our server guy. He's
our server expert who's very kindly jumps in on the chat.
Yes. Oh, is that Ethan? Oh, is it? Yeah. I didn't know that.
So very kind of him.
And I've just accidentally doxed him.
That's right.
I didn't even realise. Paid to get delisted model is a bit sus. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah.
Do you know what? There are a few very suspect blocklist providers. Majority of them are okay. They're just doing what they can to protect their users, and ultimately, like, there are so many emails, so many. So it just is what it is.
Apparently, you can set it through the cloud panel. So let's have a look.
Oh, you can set reverse DNS through the cloud panel. Oh, here we go. This should be fun watching you try and do this.
God, I don't know where though.
Oh,
no idea. Where would you do that? I don't know.
Where would you do that? Oh, there's like a delay as well. So in about 30 seconds,
yeah.
you can tell you exactly where it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Go up a sec. Is it not in
Not actions.
No, isn't it in networking? Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, reverse DNS. Yeah, I was in support 8 years ago.
There we go. So yeah, you can set it up there. There we go.
So yeah, basically, you would set the server host name there.
Yep.
Yeah. So the server host names, you saw that in our under public IP. There we go. Yeah, you would see that in the server host name is in the Plesk settings, I think.
Yep.
If you want to see it, do you want to show where it is? Rogue. If you could just tell me, make sure I'm doing the right thing here. But yeah, the server host name, search host name in search. I love search; it's so good. Host name.
I don't think it's going to come up.
No, I actually don't think it's going to come up. I can't.
Well, it comes. No, it doesn't.
It's in your DNS rec. It's in the SPF record if you want to find it that way.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just put it in there.
But yeah, if you're doing
you
all
don't
that,
have to do that, but it is one of those things that will help with spam
for sure.
So it's a good question. Yeah. Well, I asked it actually, didn't I?
You did.
So apparently, like, making my life harder than it needs to be. So, but I just preempt him. All right, okay. I think
we need to be out by 1. So I think.
Oh yeah, we're actually gonna have to wrap.
We are gonna have to wrap.
We've still got half an hour. It's fine.
There's a lot of stuff to do upstairs.
Has anyone else got any more questions? Otherwise, we will wrap it up. I don't know how we made this stretch out to an hour and a half. Unbelievable.
But the fact we've still got 22 people watching is.
Are they watching at this point, or is it just background noise and just? I think I told my wife as well I was doing this today, and show support. So that's probably one of them. She probably just got me on in the background, ignoring me. So maybe 20 others. Who knows? But yeah, any more questions? And we will. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. Yeah, the drop off is fairly significant now. So there is a 30-second delay. So I'm going to say, if we don't have any more questions in the next minute, I will kill the stream.
Yep.
Or you will kill the stream,
kill the stream.
because I've kind of been surplus to requirements today, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take everything up then.
Yeah. Huh?
Do you want to take everything up then?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got. Oh yeah. You say we've got to be out by. I say we've got half an hour, but we've got to take all the camera equipment out.
That's the thing I'm worried about.
Do the lights and cameras, and yeah, we need to reset the room up.
Yep.
I will inform Dave that we will be out soon. Someone's messaging us. When are you guys gonna be out? I need the room. We did book it.
Right.
Yeah.
I reckon we're at.
I reckon we're done. So the final thing to say is thank you everyone for coming along and engaging and asking questions. I do apologise that it's just an hour and a half stream for something that really only takes about 15 minutes. But yeah, that's just how we roll, I guess. So yeah, thank you very much for coming. We'll be doing another live stream next month. It's going to be on our partner control panel. So a bit of we'll have Matt Harvey, our partner manager, is going to be on there as well. So if you're interested in the partner program, it'd be really interesting. You get some one-on-one time with him as well. Yeah. And we got the mouse. Yes, we did get the mouse. That was my cardio for the day. Sorted that.
Oh, that was your input. That was it.
Yeah. That was it. So was I really surplus, or was I the most important one in the stream?
I would have been stuck.
I just got bear with me while I type all this out with all that DNS. Can you imagine? Ugh. There we go. Right. There's about 3 of us on the fastest thing, I think. There we go. Oh, and can't even do a smiley properly. Look, I am genuinely useless.
Right, I think we've reached the end of what we can offer here. So
End it. Thanks, everyone. Take
catch you
care.
next time.
Bye bye.